Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary Miller here with Matthew Vimslik, a project manager at Workinman Interactive, here to tell us about workers at Workinman Interactive voting unanimously in favor of unionizing. Thank you so much for joining me today, Matthew.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So Matthew, for starters, what is Workinman Interactive?
Workinman Interactive is a game and exhibits company. We make games for clients like Disney, Nickelodeon, Atari, Nintendo, and we also make exhibits for places all over the world. We've made exhibit spaces in Amsterdam and right here in our city of Rochester, the Strong National Museum of Play. We've done a whole bunch of stuff for one of their big expansions there.
Really? So can you provide us more details about the process that led to the decision to unionize?
Yeah, it started with some layoffs that came unexpectedly. And it got a lot of us kind of a little bit worried about our jobs and a little worried about the future. We noticed a few people had been leaving just out of some like long dissatisfaction with the company. And at a certain point, we realized, if management was going to take the steps to course correct, it was going to be something we were going to have to do on our end to make sure that we could make our own workplace a safe and inviting place where people won't just be happy working here, but be happy staying here long term.
So how did Ioty support the workers during their unionization efforts?
We started off with a whole bunch of the groundwork on our own. So we were reaching out to our other coworkers, and we pretty much had a union before we even reached out to Ioty. But once we were able to reach out to them, get some training, we were able to really turn it from a kind of like loose collective of employees where we were just trying to figure out what to do to suddenly, we had, lists where we could, effectively check everyone's status, how they would vote, see if there were any concerns, just make sure that when we hit those really important milestone moments around our unionization timeline, that everyone was safe, everyone felt comfortable, and everyone was on board. I really don't know if we could have won without their support. It was an incredible help.
So what's the significance of this unionization in the gaming industry overall?
In the industry overall, I mean, we've seen tons of layoffs just in the past week. We had Epic earlier laid off 900 workers. Team 17 in London, they just had some layoffs this morning. There are a lot of people where, the game layoffs are just a normal part of the industry where you kind of have to plan around eventually being let go, working conditions getting worse over time. And the common wisdom has been, well, just make sure you're constantly changing from job to job to job. And we're hoping that by making sure that these companies provide good long-term working conditions, we can have people like actually stay in the industry long term. Every time these layoffs happen, people will just leave the gaming industry altogether, and that makes it harder for all of us to learn and make the industry get better as a whole because we just lose that knowledge. So what I'm hoping is that this leads to like a lot better games over the long term.
And so how has management responded?
It's been tepid. I can't say they were the happiest when we made the announcement, but a lot of that was just out of uncertainty about what that meant. There's not a lot of game companies that have unionized, and there were a lot of questions that we had before we got started that management also has. I believe ultimately, though, once we get to that negotiation table, I think they're going to be relieved by, how basic a lot of our requests are going to be.
Mm-hmm. So what are your bargaining efforts actually going to look like in the union?
We've already done a lot of the groundwork already, just talking to a lot of our fellow coworkers, seeing what their issues are. We're going to be sending out a survey, just making sure that we can establish what everyone's priorities are. I know that management will probably have some pushback on some things. We'll probably have some pushback on some things that they have. It's really just a matter of figuring out what's important to the union and making sure that we fight for the things that are important.
And so could you provide some insights into the sentiments and reactions of the workers themselves?
I mean, obviously it's been positive since we've had the unanimous vote, um, but it's been way more casual than you'd expect. We really thought there were a lot of worries that, it would get really heated, it would get really argumentative, that it would really cause some strife. But this is a set legal process. We're not doing anything outrageous. There are entire branches of government that are set up just to allow for this process. So it's been surprisingly boring, and it's been kind of nice, very relaxing. On the day of the vote, we just ordered some Indian food because it's like, oh, we're all in the office. It's right before lunch. Let's enjoy. So
Let's
kind of
enjoy.
a nice party atmosphere before the votes.
Well, Matthew, is there anything else you'd like to add about the unionization of Workinman Interactive?
I just like to say that this is something that anyone can do at their workplace. A lot of the employees know each other so well. There's already so many connections there. It's really just a matter of reaching out to your coworkers, seeing if you're willing to, work together to form a union. We originally conceived of this just 4 months ago. This has gone at a very fast pace, and it's been surprisingly easy to do. So I really hope that anyone else who's interested in the least bit in unionizing, talk to your coworkers, reach out to the IATSE, see if they have any recommendations for you. And I'm just really excited to see the news of future unionization efforts over the next few years.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Rosemary.